guys, happy Friday. We're doing a really fun class today. I'm excited about this one. So I've been making bunches of colors. This is my most recent one. And it is a really fun design that you can either do a full length version of, or you can do little focal versions. And so it's really the sky's the limit. There's two patterns in the handout. One is a bonus pattern that does some earrings. And then there's a pattern that shows you how to do this version, which is a little simpler because it has some symmetry. And you can, of course, do that in any colors. Here's a red one that we did. Really fun design. But you can just make it your own. You can change it up. You can add charms. You can just do anything you'd like to do with it. And so that's what we're going to do today is just kind of do an kind of an introduction to what is lengthwise peyote stitch and why is it different than the regular even counts you might have seen done. It's the same steps, just worked in a different direction. All right, and so I'm going to show you guys a closer up view on my mat of everything that we've got going today. And thank you so much. And so we have the colors I've laid out are just bright and easy to see, but again, you can use any colors you want, and it really changes the look. So like if you wanted to make one for St. Patrick's Day, I've got on some earrings that I did with green, and they just came out so cool. I'm really excited about how these are looking. And it's just really super easy to do. I'm using size 11 Delicas, and I'm using good thread. And you can either use the frost color or black, depending on, what your pattern is. You want to kind of match if you can, as close as you can, match the thread color to the colors that are going to be the edge. So that would be color A in the pattern. So whatever your color A is, choose the thread that's closest to that. And then for finishing, a few things you might want to have handy to finish it. Because of the way it closes and ends, it really is cool because you can put a wire guardian on. And so I have handy here some wire guardians. And then I also have a few things like I've just got chain and a few different styles. I don't know which one we'll go with yet, but the one you're seeing here is kind of a finer cable chain. Maybe it's like 2mm, 3mm. This is a larger cable chain, or paperclip chain, I think it's called. You could use that. Or you could just go and do what I did on some of these, which is just I put a lobster claw and then I just put jump rings. And these are, this is stainless, the stainless steel. And then what you're seeing here is the 18 karat plated gold. So whichever color you like. There's also sterling silver at Michael's if you prefer that. So you can just go and find whichever your favorite is, and we'll go with that. Okay, so let's just dive into how this works. Okay, so I'm just gonna move these for now out of the way. I'll get these colors ready. And here on the first page, you'll see the basic pattern. And then you'll see the colors are laid out A, B, C, and D. And so typically color A is your edge color. That's your background color. Color B are your leaves going around flowers. Color C is your flower color. And color D is the center of your flower or daisy. And then on the second page is the how-to line by line, what to string, when to string it. And if you've done peyote stitch before, you could consider this kind of your word chart with a little boost. Because there's some decreases in there, it's written out just a little differently than you might have been used to seeing a word chart. And I kind of extemporaneously described it so that it's a little easier to put together. And then in the case of this one right here, the long version, the only difference between making the focal version and the long version is repeat of the count. So much like you might see in like a crochet pattern, there's a parentheses, and then you can say repeat 7 times or 28 times if you'd like to make the full length. Your full length will be 7 inches if you do the 28 repeats. And that's before the clasp, so you can just kind of gauge it based on that. And then, of course, the focal is a little shorter. It comes in at about 2.75 inches. And it's a good earring length. The earrings are a little shorter, though. Just a tiny bit shorter, like maybe even half an inch shorter. All right, so let's go ahead and start with a comfortable length of working thread. Now I just wrote a comfortable length, and for most people that's about a wingspan. But if you're only doing the focal, you can probably cut a little bit less. Like for example, on the focal, I think you could maybe just do 50 inches and still have plenty to maneuver. This is worked with a midpoint. So when we string the first rows 1 and 2, we will have half of that length left behind as a tail at this spot here that you can use to come and work the other half. So it's basically got a tail coming out of one side, and you work the middle, and then you use one side to work the top and one side to work the bottom. Makes it go faster, and you don't have to add thread, which is always really cool. All right, and so as with all beading stitches, the trickiest part is always getting those first rows. Once you have the first rows, it's kind of smooth sailing after that. So it's just one of those things that you gotta persevere through, and then once you get through that spot, then you got it. And for a beading needle today, I'm just using a regular size 11 beading needle, but you can use any size beading needle you like. And I'm just gonna get mine. I started storing them in this little bag because I was finding them on the ground after class. Get a lot of needles going during these classes. All right. And so to thread your needle, when you're working with the good thread, we don't have the trick of being able to flatten the end or anything like that. So just get, get the thread kind of in your fingers with the end of it as close as you can to like your thumb and forefinger, and bring the needle to it. And that's usually easier to get it threaded. And you can go up a needle size because these delicas are pretty forgiving when it comes to, their whole diameters are usually able to do like even a size 10 beading needle, that sort of thing. All right, so here in the pattern, for the first step, we're just going to string a repeat of colors A, C, D, C 7 times. So you'll start with the color A and then end with an additional A. And if you follow this as it's written, you'll get that exact result. And I do have some jump aheads ready, some samples that I've worked ahead. So I'm going to get as far as I can until it seems to be clicking for most people before I switch to those. But we will start it and do the first stitching row. I think in total these, if you're making the focal, it'll take you maybe 35 minutes to 40 minutes to complete an entire one working at speed. That varies a little bit, but so stringing one color A. It's just our starting bead. And again, leave half of that length behind as your tail. So just bring it to about the midpoint. And then we're going to string a repeat of A, color C, and then one color D, and then one color C again. So what you're going to see is it's going to be your background color, your edge color, then your petals color, the center of your flower. And Kara, this thread is good thread. And it's my choice for things like peyote stitch, fringe, brick stitch. This is my preferred thread for that. Wildfire will still work if you prefer wildfire. And so I'm going to string those down. And so I've got one repeat so far of A, C, and then color D and color C. All right, so I'm going to do that 6 more times. So just a repeat of our edge color and the petal color. And I'm just stringing these here off camera, guys. And there's 2 more. And actually, one good thing I could suggest for this method here is to double check your count. And the best way is to just count your center beads. So I can see I've got 4 repeats on there in the gold color. Let me bring that closer so you can see it. See those 4? That's kind of how I count them, and it's easy to spot if you made an error too, stringing, because they should just kind of look like that. There's 4. Here's 5. And 6. There's 2 more there. I just need 1 more. Maybe we can get going with the next part. All right, so we have finished this part of the pattern, rows 1 and 2, except for I need to string 1 additional egg at the end of those repeats. So you should have something that looks just like that. And it will be at the midpoint of your thread with a really long tail and a long working side. Thanks. Yeah, I love this one. I thought that was really fun, and it was kind of a reverse order to the edge color, so I could use a different thread. I wanted to see that. I think I'm gonna be making a lot of these. So row 3, and with peyote stitch, your row 3 is always the one where you're popping into peyote stitch for the first time. Rows 1 and 2 are just stringing. So row 3, we're gonna string the bead indicated and go through the next up bead. And so our first set is we're gonna do a repeat of color B, color C, color B, color C. We'll do that 7 times and then end with an additional color B. And remember, B is our leaf color and C is our petal color. And so I'm gonna grab color B, and then over here on the work we strung, we're gonna skip the first bead and go through the second bead. So we're gonna skip that first white bead, and then we're gonna go through the second bead there. Just the one. And pull that through. And then just pull your working and tail threads apart until it pops into position. And so what you'll get is something that looks like that. Try to get it to be flat so you can see it. So this is just going to be a regular peyote stitch starter row, which is going to be a little long. So now I need color C, which is our petal color. I'm going to skip the gold bead, that's next, and go through. I'm trying to get that closer so you guys can see. I'm skipping the gold bead, and I'm going to go through the purple bead. Just that one bead. And then just kind of pinch everything, pull that thread through, and then again, pulling that working and tail thread apart. So we're just going to repeat that until we get to the end. And one thing you might notice is that if you're lucky, they're going to stay on the same sides for you. One way you can encourage that, and what I mean by staying on the same sides, is the new bead, in my case, is popping out on the right, which is over here. And that's going to make it easier for me to pop on row 4. If yours are spinning on you, a couple suggestions I could offer. One is when you are doing your pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next bead. When you're doing that, you can just come through the beads in the same direction. And some of the time that will work for me. Another thing you can do, and this is a super, super optional here, but you can either take another needle or even like a head pin or an eye pin and run that through the new beads as you string them. So it's a little tricky to do your stitching like that, but for example, you could lock in the other side that way with a needle. I don't usually do it, but I have seen people make that work out. It just gets a little fumbly. And then last but not least, when we put on row 4, we'll make sure we're going through the right bead, because you can always spin it right in that moment when you're adding row 4's beads. So we'll show that. All right, so I just added C. Now I got to go back and add another B. And when I add the B bead, I'm going to skip a bead and go through the next bead. So I want to go through that purple bead right there with the color B. right. And so far, so good. Now we need a color C. I'm going to skip the gold bead and go through the next petal bead. So you can see we're kind of working that half of the daisy like that, right? It's just coming together really nicely. All right. And so back to color B. Skip a bead, go through the next one. So far, so good. And then color C, skip a bead, and go through the next bead. So I'm going to speed up just a little bit, but let me know if anyone has questions about that. My beads are kind of staying in the spots we want them to. So far, so good. And if it doesn't stay like that, if I struggle with it, it's okay, because we can still fix it at the end. That one. And number C, skip a bead, go through the next one. Again, here's B. You want to skip the next bead in your row and just go through the next one. And with each time, you're just pulling that working and tail thread apart. So that was a B. Here's number C. Back to B. All right, I'm almost there, almost to the end. So we're going to skip the next color, go through the one after that. And here's color C. Okay. So let's count up what we've done so far. I always error check my work before I go on past this point. So what I'm looking at here is I'm going to use my color B to count, because I know B was the first one I strung on the repeats. So let's make sure we have 7 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I know I've done 7 repeats of the B and the C, ending with a C there. And the next thing I need to do is add 1 additional B according to that row 3 pattern. Row B, or sorry, color B is another green bead. I have 1 color A bead left, and then, sorry, 2 more. So I'm going to go through the second one here. And pull tight. All right. So that's what we're going for. If your work has done any spinning on you, take the opportunity now to grab that needle and unspin it. So for example, if my work was spinning on me and I felt like I wanted to fix that, you could get an eye pin, or a head pin would be even better. Something like 22 gauge would fit these beads really nicely. And run that needle or head pin, eye pin through the side you're not going to work. So we're going to work into the side we just strung, which is those repeats of B and C. But what you can do is you can take your needle or something like it and run it down the side like that, just to lock in the side you want to work. And I'm just going to pull that tight. All right, so now we're on row 4. And for row 4, it's really easy. We're just going to put a color B, which is our green petal color, through every up bead. So let me just grab those really quick. It's hard to pick up. All right, and so I'm just going to tighten this really quick. Sorry, guys. It got loose on me. And so I'm exiting from that top color A right there. And that needle's just holding everything in place so I know which side I'm not working into. I'm gonna put the B through this B, and then another B through the C, and then a B through the C. We're gonna do that all the way to the end. And if it loosens on you, you can just tighten it up by pulling on that working and tail side. So we're going for something that looks like that. And it's easy to remember because it's all B. There we go. And so it'll just start to look like that for you. There'll be a B bead in between every single up bead. And after doing this, if you're relying on the stabilizer, the needle that I'm using here for the other rows, we won't need that anymore after this row. Oops, there we go, get that through there. So this is really super easy. I would say the hardest part's behind us is just getting that row started, right? And once you're at this spot, it's literally just you follow that pattern, add the next bead through the up bead, and you got it. So I'm going to keep going to the end of this row and then check in with you guys. And if you're good, I have a jump ahead sample that we can move over to. A few more to go here.
Danielle, you're going to be okay to jump ahead.
Gonna be okay? Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys are getting it. And it's just stuff we've done before, but it's something a little harder to start, I feel like, just because of how wide it is. Now, I'm gonna be super, super honest. When you do the really long one, it takes a little more patience those first rows because it is gonna spin on you, and you won't have anything long enough to do this with. So what you can do when I started this one, for example, and it was spinning, I just knew flip it as I was getting my row 4 in there, right? So we can take this one out. And so this is what you're going for here. All right, and so what would happen from here? Let me grab my jump ahead. Is you would finish the next rows on these edges here. And so where this one is relative to that, let me make that closer to see. Sorry, that's really far away. So the sides are lined up currently. I have not worked the bottom side where we switched to the tail. I'm only still working over here, but this is like a few rows ahead. So from here, a way to count the rows and figure out where you are is count these edge beads. So here we were at 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we know we just finished with row 4. On this one, we've just finished row 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're starting row 7, which is something new, where we've got a decrease. And so a decrease is super, super easy. There's more than one way to do it. I have a way I like to do it that the thread shows. I'm going to show that first, but then I wanted to suggest also that you could weave around if you're using a color that doesn't match, right? Let's see if I can get that through there. I'm pretty sure this is a little teeny needle, like a size 12 probably. I'm going to try a few more times, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to trim this end. Oh, there it goes. Woo. There we go. All right. So I got my needle back on there. Okay. So by decrease, what this means is here, right here, what we've done right here is we have just finished this row, row 6, add an A bead through every up bead. And then we're going to decrease. So that means we're going to go through the next up bead without adding a bead. This is the simplest way to do it if your thread's matching. And then we'll add an A bead and skip the next position. Do that 7 times. So how that looks from here is you'll skip and go through the next up bead without adding a new bead. And so that thread's going to show a little bit. If you're not loving that, it takes a little longer. It's going to add some time. But let me show you just in case someone wants to not see that. You just need to weave around so that you're exiting, heading this way from that bead. So one way you could do it, let's go back to this one. That's the middle green bead right there. And then kind of counterintuitively, you want to go away from it, go through the purple bead. You can make a turn up through the green bead that's next to it, and then make a turn down through the edge white bead. Now, truth be told, I'm lazy and I actually just did this step down with a thread. Let me show you on my designs here. You can see that's how I've done those, but it's a, it's all preference. So there's more than one way. That just takes a little extra time. It's really, really nice looking once you do it. Okay, so now we're going to pick up a bead. Go through the next up bead. Simple enough, I got that. But we don't want to put a bead here, just for the style. We're making it look like a flower, right? So I'm going to skip the next place where we would typically add a bead, right? We would put a B bead and go through the next up bead. I'm going to skip it and I'm going to do it in one swoop, just by going through these 2 beads right here. Yeah, Amy, I agree. I usually don't bother unless my thread is a dramatically different color. And even then though, sometimes like if it's contrasting, I might do it on purpose so you can see the thread because that looks kind of cool too. So, but it's all just style, We all have a different way of doing our jewelries. So I like, sometimes I'll do variations of that too. And so we're back at a spot where we just skipped one, and then we're going to add a new one here. So I'm just going to go through here. All right. And so we're going to skip the next one. So to skip the next one, you just want to go through 2. And then we'll add a bead here. Go. And all the way down the row there. So you just keep going. And in the case of this one, it's so short, I think I'll just zip through it, but I do have a sample that's ready to go after the spot. But after we're done with this, we can skip to using the tail thread. So you can, if this side is getting short for you, you've got a new strand waiting for you at the tail side, which is right here. All right. And skip the last repeat. Okay. So there's that whole side done. And when you've got this part done, you can set it aside and then switch to the tail thread that you left at the beginning. And then we'll work the other side down. So I do have one more work ahead sample, so you guys don't have to see this entire side, but since we've got time, I'll start this side and then we'll do our jump ahead to this one. And so I'm gonna grab our needle. I want to show putting wire guardians on, so I need one that's finished. And also that's why I didn't trim that extra thread over there yet. This one, because we're going to use that to do a wire guardian. There we go. Okay, so from this side, here's where we're at. We just finished row 7. And so now we're at row 8. So switch to using that tail thread. And we're going to add 1A and then finish it up with just 14C. So I got an A bead here. And if it gets loose on you like that, it tends to happen to me a lot. Just right before I pull that through, pull that back through like that. And then I'm just going to pinch everything. Making sure that stays in the spot where I want it. And from here, I'm going to switch to color C, which is our petal color. Just all the way down. And how about I just do a few, we're at a good time, but I'll just do a few of these so you can get the idea. And then I'll explain the jump ahead. So you would just keep going, putting the color C bead into the up beads. And then that will bring you to here. And then row 9, you would do a repeat of color B, color C 7 times, end with a B. Row 10, color B through a up bead, row 11. And so I have a sample here that is at that spot in row 12. So I added an A bead through every up bead. And the only thing I have left to do is to finish it by going, doing a decrease and then doing what we did before, where we put a bead here, skip, a bead here, skip. But before I do that, while I have thread on this side, because keep in mind, we still have thread. Let me show you on this sample. We still have thread left down here from the old working side. So that can take care of the wire guardian on that side. But yeah, oh, thanks. I saw the comment there. Thank you. And so while we're here, before we're back here, right, let's do our wire guardian on this side. And then we can just finish this row, weave in, and then use this to do the wire guardian on that side. So I just need to grab another needle really quick. I was going to store these as all kind of like a pre-needled. I've done that before, and the needles never make it until they're fully gay here. Let's grab a few more here. So that should be good. Okay, just making sure I'm stringing the right side. And then just gonna get that right through. Lots of needle threading today. Okay. So also I need my wire guardians. Which are here. You'll need a pair, one for each side. So just starting with this one. The best way to do a wire guardian is to get your needle through on one side. So just kind of like that. And pull it through until it meets the beadwork. And then you want to come up and over to the other side of it, just like that. And usually when I do that, I'll just pinch it all together, which helps the thread stay in the well at the top like that. If you just pinch it, and then just keep pulling until you connect with the beadwork. And, oh, sorry guys. We want to attach it by, I should show weaving to the right spot. Let me go back and explain that. I skipped a step. Okay. So I need to get over to that green bead right there. So I'm going to go down through the adjacent one. And then I'm going to go down through one of the beads below it. So all I'm doing is weaving so that my thread is exiting from that green bead. I just needed to be one bead over there. And so on this side, the wire guardian is going to be built out of the green beads. So it's going to be just kind of sitting on top of these two. So now let's do that again. String that on. Jump over. And then I'm just going to get through that green bead there. So that's the goal, is to get it to sit just like that. And you'll need to do that same weaving around step. The good news is you only have to do this weaving around step on this side, because the other side, remember this is even count, so the edges are offset. So on this side, we have to do a little weaving to get to exiting back out of that green bead to reinforce. So I'm going to go down through this bead below it, that green bead, and then back up through the adjacent pink bead. So that one right there. And then go ahead and head up through the green bead and go through that wire guardian at the same time. And then over the wire guardian. And if you can get through it in one swoop, it's easier. But try to get through that green bead at the same time on the other side. And while you're pulling that through, just pinch right here at the top to keep the thread inside the well of the wire guardian. And so if all's well there, what you can do from here is weave to exit from this bead. Because we're going to do the decrease. Let me show you back on the pattern. So we finished this, we added a wire guardian, and now we're going to work that last row. So it's first step is a decrease. So two ways you could do that is you could step back up through this bead and you'd be right where you were before we added the wire guardian. And then you could just do your decrease by jumping down. Or since we're here, we're already weaving around anyway. We can go down through that pink bead again. Pull. And then you can go up through the adjacent green bead. Just that green bead right there. And then turn and come down through that bead there. And now we just did that decrease. So two ways you can do it. And this is the no thread way, no edge thread. All right, easy peasy now. From here out, we're just gonna go ahead and attach an up bead into every other section, skipping the next one. So we'll just go very quickly zip through that. And I do think it's easiest to skip if you just go through both of those beads if you can, but you can always go through them one by one too. One thing I noticed when I was working on the bracelet that I'm wearing is that it's edged with matte beads. So they're not the shiny beads, they're the matte ones. And for some reason, when I'm working with the matte beads, it's harder to get my needle through doing little tricks like that. I don't know if you guys have observed that too, but so that's why I don't insist on it because it is possible if you're straining the beads to break them. I was a little careful about that. This one, these I'm using DB200 right now, which is the opaque white. It actually is really really forgiving, and it's not like you're not getting that kind of like a, I don't know how to describe it, but you can feel resistance on the needle when you go through the matte beads. And it could just be me, Cindy. I don't know. I noticed that when I'm working with the matte. So I'm curious if anyone else, real or imagined, I don't know. Okay. I just don't like there to be any like crunchy sound because then I get worried I'm breaking I'm breaking something. And so I'll just go through one at a time in that case. But this one, that's working out. Just getting through two at a time. Makes it a lot faster. Okay. So we're essentially done here. And what I want to do next is get that wire guardian on. And you know, if you have enough thread on your whatever side you're working, go for it. It doesn't matter actually which side. It's just that I wanted to make sure there was an option in case you're getting short that you have a tail here and this one. So in my case, I've got two equally good lengths here to work with. I'm going to show this side doing the wire guarding because it is different than the one we did on this side, just a little bit. So I'm going to go down through the green bead and then up through the adjacent white bead. So this wire guardian is going to be on 2 because I just want it to be centered, that's all. And you don't notice, let me show you on this one. The wire guardian going out of 2 versus 3. When you're wearing this or whenever you looked at the photos, I bet nobody noticed that. So don't sweat it. It's a little different, but it still looks really good. And so if you have a wire guardian like this, and it seems like it's a little wide, you can just close it a little bit. So this one's going to be straddling only 2 beads. So I want it to be just a little bit. Now, if you're working with a stainless, you're going to need to use your pliers to do what I just did. But if you're sterling or gold, you're okay. So about like that. Bring it down. And then just testing that width there. It looks good. Okay, go over. And then you want to go through that second bead there. And pinch everything. And this makes it so much easier. Just come up through the adjacent bead and through the wire guardian. This side is way easier than the other one. No weaving around. I got through 2 beads there. There we go. And so I only went around twice. You could reinforce it 3 times. Just for the interest of time, I'm not doing as much reinforcing. Like I might have done this maybe one more and one more here, but so I really only went through the wire guardian twice. I think twice is okay. Could always add more, and it does not hurt to add more. Could only be good. So yeah. From here, how are we doing on time? We're doing good. I could show weaving in with at least one of these strands just in case that's new to anybody. So what you want to do with these extra strands you've got here, clearly I cut more thread than I needed in that case. I think I was not really paying attention when I did that, but to weave in, you just want to change direction a few times. So I'm just going to go through a few beads. Maybe through a few more. And then if you make turns, let me show you what I mean by that. So making a turn is just coming up through the adjacent bead from the one you're exiting. That's locking it in, right? Maybe come up through one more bead here. And then it's going to go down through a few. Here's another turn. And when you do these turns, if it's at all making your beads be wonky, you can spin it. I'm going to go down through this next bead over here. Make sure something didn't happen there. I spun it a little too fervently. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to do this one. And then just trim it. So let me get my scissors really quick. I'll trim this side. Okay, that side's good. And I think I will just really speedily weave in this other one so I can finish the bracelet and show you it all done. Okay, and so once again, I'm just going to bring it through some beads. Try to head in a different spot this time. So I'm weaving it in a different area. Turn this. These are the parts of bead weaving that are a little boring, so apologies. But maybe still good to see. Get through those 4 there. That's probably pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and trim that. All right. So there's our little focal all set. And to finish it, just a bunch of different ways you can do it. There's lots of ways. You can put on chain. You can put on, if you've made the long one, just go straight to a clasp. But what I did on these is I just used a jump ring and then went to some chain. And I actually put a little charm on one side. So I thought that was a neat little idea. Kind of fun. Let me get some jump rings out and some chain. Clasp here. And if I have
And
enough of this chain.
Danielle, just so you know, Stacy definitely wants to make these into earrings.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The earrings. So you could also, if you wanted to, put a charm on the bottom of this and an ear wire at the top. And so this can become an earring. This is the more beginner friendly pattern. Let me bring the other one over and explain. Maybe put them side by side in the same colors. So if you're loving this and you want to go take it up a notch and try something that's a little more challenging, the only reason it's challenging is because of the asymmetry. It's not worked with a center point. It is still worked down the center, but you're going to have different up beads and down beads when you work with rows 1, 2, and 3. So it's only just a smidge different as far as it being just a little harder to keep track of when you get started, but it's all written out here for you in the handout, where you just string those beads. And then when you work row 3, the cool thing is instead of 7 repeats, it's only actually got 3 repeats because of the way it builds. And it does actually work up faster than the one I just demoed because it's shorter. This goes a little quicker, but it's just a little easier to make a mistake. You start here. It's also still worked with the tail from the midpoint with a really long tail, where you go back and you switch to the tail at a certain point. Row 6 there. Yeah, and so hopefully this one totally makes sense after you've seen, because it's the same exact steps. It's just it's a little bit more advanced only because of that, only because of the difference in edging, right? But yeah, they can become earrings. It can become, and what I do when I have things like this that I'm trying to decide, well, sometimes I make stuff that I just like, but I don't really know what I'm gonna make it into until after I made it. So this is one of those projects that can become like that. I'm just grabbing some little teeny 4mm jump rings. You can use any jump rings you want. I think if I had the 5mm handy, I might go with those, but I've got these. And these are the ones we were using in last week's class. And so the pliers I've got in my hand are, they're chain nose pliers, but they have a square, like you'll see them called either flat nose pliers or square chain nose pliers. They're the same thing. I see them called kind of interchangeably, those two types of tools. They often come in the regular sets. And then there's these bent nose ones. It's just my kind of go-to for jump rings. And I just open those in like a lateral motion like that. So just like that. And paperclip chain or cable chain, I can never decide. Since I've already done cable on one, let me let's go ahead and see what this looks like. Yeah, so Sharon says clips, so we'll go with that. There we go. And I didn't quite close that one. Okay, so there's one side. And what I'm going to do, this is the lazy way of doing it. You can always use a guide or a measure, but I'm just going to bring it around and see about how much I need and pinch that spot. And maybe subtract one because I know I'm going to put a clasp on it. I'm just going to cut right there. And so this is my lazy bracelet way. So I've got one really long side, right? And another jump ring. Open. And I'm linking the other side. I'm curious if anyone else does bracelets. I only do it really like this if it's for me. I do measure if it's going to be for someone else, but if it's for me, I'll go ahead and make the bracelet like that. And lay it out. Kind of find that midpoint. I'm going to cut that one. Okay. And now I did kind of pre-make a charm ahead of time to weight the end of my chain. All I did was I took one of our gold beads from the gold, the 18 karat gold section. They're hanging on the wall there. And that's just a regular head pin. And so here's another jump ring. And you can also just put a regular charm on it if you want. But I like to weight the ends of my chain. And so because these are such large links, I'm going to actually clip my lobster claw into the links. So that's why I put a little weight on the bottom. I did something different on these others, because you can't really click your lobster claw into the links as easily. What I did is I put a big jump ring on the end, and that became the weight. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. Same thing was done with this one, just because it was a little cable chain. But this one, I've got the advantage of those links being really big. So let's get my lobster claw going here. One more jump ring. Spot the seam on that. So there's that one. And I don't have a charm on it yet. I wish I did. I didn't bring a charm up with me. What was I thinking? But I have these other two to show how I did it. It's just another open a jump ring. In fact, a lot of these charms come with a jump ring already on them, and you can just use that and just go direct to your wire guardian. Or if you're doing the earrings, right to the ear wire. And these ear wires actually open. Let me show you on the one I'm wearing. They open right here. in just a lateral motion, so you can get your wire guardian right onto it.
Danielle, thank you so much for showing several versions of it.
Yeah.
I promised a couple people answers to 3 questions before we leave today.
Sure, yeah.
So the first one is, why did you use good thread?
It's not as thick as Wildfire. And so particularly, let me show you the one I'm wearing and this other long one. They tend to get really, really kind of stiff. And so do you see how flexible this is? If you make that with Wildfire, it's still gonna work, but it's gonna be a lot less flexible. It already made with good thread holds its shape. See how it's staying in a, let me take this one off actually. It's staying
And that's the
around. Yeah.
that's the perfect intro into Marguerite's question is, how stiff is it now?
So if you work with a good thread, it's, see, I'm gonna try to hold it like that. And the other thing, just going back to using Wildfire, yes, it'll work. You're weaving in. You remember we were doing all this weaving in stuff up here with the wire guardians and everything. It's gonna be a little tighter on you there. And just be careful you don't break a bead. It'll work. Just you want to go a little slower. Maybe use a size 12 beading needle. But yeah,
Okay.
it's not super.
And then the final thing is, of course, everyone fell in love with the black and white.
Yes.
So if you
Colors.
if you could just tell us how you used 4 colors, right?
Yep. Yeah, I have them with me. Let me show you really quick. So I used, starting with the edge. This one is matte black, and it is a 310, DB 310. And these are all in store at Michael's. So that's the edge. The petals are something called Gray Mist. Looks like this one. And that one is 1211. So it's kind of like it's almost like a silver lined. It's a little different than the silver line. And then the petals were the same color that I was using over here, just the regular opaque white, DB 200. I think I have that over here. Well, this is the pearl version, but it's the DB 200. And then the center. So this little center of the flower right there is this one, hematite. And that one is 0001.
That's great, Danielle. It's so funny because we always end up getting distracted by what you're wearing instead of what's on your mat. So it's nice to see it. And thank you again for answering everyone's questions.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I get my best ideas when I'm working samples. I don't know why. It's like I always have an idea I wish I thought of before the PDF was done and it was submitted. And I'm like, oh, but that idea. And then, so yeah, this would have been the sample if I thought of it first. But
Yep.
who doesn't love the colors too? I mean, it's so pretty. Either way. Is there any more questions for me on this
No,
one? Or?
those were the ones I promised to get answered.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, sky's the limit, guys. Anything you want to use, any colors. If you also would like to do different kinds of chain than I've used here, different kind of closures, making it
Danielle, I'm noticing in the sidebar, Alexa posted the earrings from last week. Oh, no,
really?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. From 2 weeks
They
ago.
look
So we
great.
did,
Thank you. The
oh,
hearts,
the
crystal
hearts.
hearts.
Yeah, we did a brick stitch heart and then we did crystal hearts too. So we have
Mhm.
lots of hearts this month. And someone asked me something about the flowers. On this one,
Probably about why it's offset.
for style, just for fun. I wanted it to look like the leaves were kind of vining around it. And like if you took the center color out and made it all purple, it could be like a grapevine for like a wine theme, If you have a friend that's really into wine, you could do that for her, stuff like that. Ways to just make it your own, change it up. But since it's spring or, it's wish spring right now, but I thought the bright colors and little daisies. So we always got to do a daisy chain for spring, right? So yeah. Well, there's all the ones I've made so far. This is the one we made today. And then I've got my my two that I got to finish right here. Maybe these can become an earring with a charm on the bottom, I think. Get those done. Yeah, so if there's any more questions for me, let me know. Or there's if everyone wants to see next week. Goodness, is next week already March? Holy cow. Okay. Yeah, next week we're doing some really fun earrings that are fringe. I'll just pop one up here. And it's made with 11 seed beads and also still using the good thread. Yeah, so if you guys are free next week on Friday, we'll see you for that. Yeah, they look cool on. Let me pop one on for you so you can see. They really do. They do look really cool. So yeah, join us next week for this one. And I want to wish you a great weekend. Happy beading. And have a great weekend, guys.